Lesson 5.5, Adding Tenths and Hundredths. The main focus of this lesson is for you to write a number model with an unknown. You're going to be able to discuss different methods for adding tenths and hundredths. And finally, you're going to write equations to solve addition problems with unlike denominators. But first, we're going to start with our mental math and fluency. Find equivalent fractions with a denominator of 10 or 100 for each one and represent it as a decimal. So watch what I do here because this is going to be a little challenging. First, you start out with your fraction a half, and it says to change that to tenths and then hundredths. So remember, these are denominators. So we're looking at how can 2 become tenths? We multiply it by 5. To find equivalent fractions, I have to also multiply the top number by 5. The numerator 1 times 5 equals 5. These two are now equivalent fractions. It is telling you 5 is in the tenth spot. So as a decimal, you should have written that as 0.5. Now 5 is in the tenth spot, which is the first place after the decimal. Now it says change the 2 to hundredths. So 2 times what is 100? 2 times 50. Remember, whatever I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. So what is 1 times 50? 1 times 50 is 50. So 1/2 also equals 50 hundredths. Now the number 50 has to end in the hundredth spot. So how would I write that as a decimal? 0.50. Notice it does not say 5 tenths. Even though 5 is in the tenth spot, it's saying 50 hundredths. So the 0 ends in the hundredth spot. The next one, 2/5. Again, I want you to get out a sheet of paper quickly, and I want you to convert 2/5 this time into tenths. Then write it as a decimal on the line. And then I want you to change 2/5 into hundredths. And again, write it as a decimal. Pause the recording now and do that through multiplication. The final fraction I want you to do as changing it to tenths and to hundredths is the fraction 1/5. So again, on your paper, you should have 1/5 written. I want you to change it to tenths first. Write that as a decimal. And then I want you to change 1/5 into hundredths and write it again as a decimal. You should stop the recording now, pause it, and you should do both of those and then bring it up to me or Mrs. Voorhees so that we can see that you're converting them correctly. Read this problem to yourself as I read it out loud. It says, Alex made a poster with 100 paper clips for the 100th day of school celebration. 2/10 of the paper clips were gold. 45 hundredths of the paper clips were silver. The rest were other colors. Write a number model with an unknown to represent the fraction of paper clips on Alex's poster that are silver or gold. So what would my whole be? The whole that it's talking about in this problem that I would be writing in my box. Hopefully you're realizing that the whole is the poster with 100 paper clips. So this should be written down here in my whole box. How would I write this as a number model? Well, it says I had 2/10 of the paper clips were gold. and 45 hundredths of the paper clips were silver. Look at the number model we just wrote. How are the fractions in this number story different from the fractions in the number stories you've been asked to solve so far in Unit 5? I'm hoping you're realizing that the fractions in this number story have been divided into different numbers of equivalent parts. We have tenths and we have hundredths. In the fraction addition problems we have solved so far, the fractions were divided into the same numbers of equal parts. So the denominators previously, or the units, were the same. And now in this one, they're different. We also know that in order to add fractions, they must refer to the same whole. So do you think that to be added, they must have equivalent parts or the same denominator? Yes, they need to have the same denominator. So what are some ways we could solve this number story? Well, probably the best way to solve this one, or the easiest for me, would to make the fractions equivalent by having the same denominator. So since this one is already to hundredths, I would just make this an equivalent fraction by making this one hundredths. So how does 10 become 100? Well, 10 times 10 is 100. So whatever I do to the bottom number, I must do to the numerator or the top number. So what is 2 times 10? 20. Once I've converted my fractions, and I have two with the same denominators, now I can complete that problem. 20 plus 45 is 65. And remember, we do not add our denominators. Once we have them the same, we just bring it over and write it exactly the same as the other ones. So my answer for this problem would be 65 100ths. Now I want you to try to show me what you know about equivalent fractions and adding them. Please get out Math Journal page 164. It reads, 5/10 plus 27/100 is the equation in words. So they want you to write this in words. Well, first of all, they want us to have the same denominator. So we're going to have to change 5/10 to hundredths. So first I'm going to write this as a fraction, 5/10, and now it wants me to change it to hundredths. Again, to do equivalent fractions, we multiply. Draw our lines. How does 10 become 100? Times 10. Whatever I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. What is 5 times 10? Hopefully you're realizing that's 50. So what would I write the equation in words? I would write 50 hundredths. And these words are up on the board on the magnets, so you know how to spell them, so that if you forget, you shouldn't have to call Mrs. Voorhees or myself over to ask us how to spell hundredths. And please make sure you're spelling them right, because by practicing spelling them, you're going to automatically know how to do it as you go through the rest of our math. Now it says add 27 hundredths, so again, you're going to write it out in words, because that's what it asked you to do. And notice this is taking me a little bit longer because I'm trying to use the cursor here to do this. Equals, and I'm going to do the equal sign for that. So I would add 50 plus 27 is 77, and again, hundredths. Do not shorten these words. Please spell them out completely. There we go. I want you to go ahead and finish Math Journal page 164. This is an assessment check-in, so I need for you to finish this page pretty much on your own. and then I want you to come up to me and have me check it for you. Number 2, you're going to do almost exactly as we did number 1, using the use new numbers. In the next one, 3, 4, 5, and so on, you're going to have to convert those problems so that they have same denominators. So you're going to change this first one to hundredths, 8 hundredths. Well, since that's already hundredths, I'm going to leave that alone. But now I'm going to have to change 6 tenths to hundredths so that I have like denominators. So again, for each one of these problems, you're going to have to be asking yourself, how does 10 become 100 times 10? Whatever I do to the bottom number, I do to the top so that I have an equivalent fraction. 6 times 10 is 60. Once I've converted them, I'm done with this old fraction, and I'm only looking at the fractions that have the same denominator. Now I can add them. 8 plus 6, 68. I do not add or subtract the denominators. I just bring it and write it down the same. Finish page 164 and then bring it up to myself or Mrs. Voorhees to check. Thank you. After I or Mrs. Voorhees have checked Math Journal page 164, I want you to do Math Journal page 165. And again, this is looking at number problems. It reads, a stand sold souvenirs at a basketball game. The table lists the prices and the number of items sold. How much money was spent on umbrellas and hoodies? So the number model with the unknown. Well, you need to look up, and it says 25 times 17 is what it was for umbrellas. So we would write that in parentheses. 25 times 17. And I'm going to have to figure out that answer. Once I figure out that answer, I'm going to have to add it to the hoodies, which is 58 times 50. Those are my unknowns as of right now, because I don't know what these totals are, and I need to find that out in order for me to figure out what X is. Don't forget to figure these two out, because these are prices, this is money, and then you'll add those two together to come up with the answer. This is how you're going to do every problem on this page. So please make sure that you're writing the number problem out clearly so that I can see if you have something wrong, what it was. Please write the answer to your multiplication problems directly above the problem so I know what two numbers you added together to get your unknown. Pause the recording now and finish Math Journal page 165. The next Math Journal page 166 you're going to do on your own, but I am going to read the problems to you so that you know what they say. So Math Journal page 166, Math Box 1 reads, Darusha ate 3/8 of the coffee cake, while Eaton ate 4/8. How much of the coffee cake did the boys eat? Hopefully you're realizing that you're going to have to add that fraction, those two fractions, to get your answer. Math Box 2 reads, the maximum weight allowed at one time on a walking bridge is 400,000 grams. Can these people safely stand on the bridge together? And then how many grams do they weigh all together? So hopefully you're realizing you're going to have to add all those numbers together, and then you're going to have to convert it into grams because this is kilograms. Pause the recording now and do Math Box 2. Math Box 3 asks you to multiply, show your work. So use traditional method or partition boxes, estimate it, and then find the real answer. 4 asks you to use fraction circle pieces to solve the problem. And finally 5 says to solve problem 3 using a different strategy. The final thing you're going to do for this lesson is Math Masters page 202, When you finish that, bring it up to me and you are done with this lesson.